bring our wounded, ill, and injured veterans, active duty members, service members to Lourdes, France for a pilgrimage of healing that really gives them an opportunity to explore their wounds, what they're dealing with, whether physical or invisible, wounds of war, PTSD, injury, things like that. And it's a pretty intensive program that we put them through, but it's a great healing experience for our servicemen and women.
Welcome back to Regiment Across. Today on Regiment Across, we explore a remarkable pilgrimage that brings American warriors to one of the most sacred places on earth. Each year, veterans, active duty service members travel to our sanctuary of Our Lady of Lourdes in Lourdes, France, joining thousands of soldiers from nations across the globe in prayer, healing, and fraternity. The program is known Warrior to Lourdes, sponsored by the Knights of Columbus here in the United States. And we're going to see what happens when warriors step off the battlefield and into this sacred place. Today I have Mr. Kevin Smith from the Knights of Columbus. So go ahead, Kevin, take it away.
Yeah, my name's Kevin Smith. I've been with the Knights of Columbus for 14 years now. Recently in September, took over as the principal coordinator of Warriors to Lourdes. I've been with Warriors to Lourdes now since 2019, in some capacity, however. And yeah, very excited to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, so I told you I wore my Knights of Columbus shirt for you so I can get a few points. But well, again, thanks for coming on the show. So for the folks, my audience, I focus for veterans and sometimes farmers transitioning to veterans, but mostly veteran issues, struggling with PTSD type things. I try to do this podcast because it's too many veterans were taking their lives every year, some 6,000 per year, 17 per day. So I said, something's got to do about it. And this is one of those perfect things that fits into that. Our mission here at Regiment of the Cross, Knights of Columbus, they do wonderful work. Initially started off for widows when Father McGivney started it back. I'm not too sure what the year it started.
1880.
It's always yes, and he's on his way to sainthood, from what I understand. So it's just a great program, and this is just another great opportunity for the Knights to show what they do, from collecting coats to for children during the winter to 40 cans of Lent, where they collect food for folks during Lent, which is almost over. We got 2 weeks left. So yeah, so I guess for those listeners, what is Warriors to Lourdes and how did it begin?
Yeah, so Warriors to Lourdes is a program co-sponsored by the Knights of Columbus and the Archdiocese for the Military Services here in the U.S. So we run a pilgrimage on behalf of Archbishop Berlioz, the Archbishop for the Archdiocese for the Military Services. Warriors to Lourdes is the U.S. delegation of the larger International Military Pilgrimage, or PMI, as they say in France, which started right after World War II as a pilgrimage for service members who wanted to pray for peace and heal the world. Lourdes was untouched during World War II in France, and the French government invited different countries to France, to Lourdes, to pray for peace. So that's been going on since just after World War II. We're going on to our 66th annual military pilgrimage this coming May. So they've been meeting up in every May since just after World War II. The Knights of Columbus took over the U.S. delegation in 2014. So before that, there were a bunch of different groups, pilgrim groups, that brought people in for the International Military Pilgrimage every year. The Archbishop saw an opportunity to work with the Knights of Columbus on this pilgrimage, and Warriors to Lourdes started in 2014 because of that. So we bring the U.S. delegation from 6 different airports in the U.S., and we also have a bus from some of our U.S. military bases in Germany. And we bring our wounded, ill, and injured veterans, active duty members, service members to Lourdes, France for a pilgrimage of healing that really gives them an opportunity to explore their wounds, what they're dealing with, whether physical or invisible, wounds of war, PTSD, moral injury, things like that. And it's a pretty intensive program we put them through, but it's a great healing experience for our servicemen and women.
That's excellent. So I mean, so those that may not be Catholic, why Lourdes? Why couldn't it be maybe wherever, Paris? Why is Lourdes significant? I know
Right.
the
So,
answer,
yeah. So,
but
so Bernadette it was a young girl in Lourdes, France, um, when Mary appeared to her at the Grotto of Marisabel. My French is terrible, so I'm working on it. But
okay.
so she appeared to Bernadette. Bernadette was kind of a sickly young girl. She was collecting firewood down at the grotto. Mary appeared to her and said, "Here, you should build the chapel and dig in the mud, and you will find healing water, a healing spring." It took a lot of flack. She got interrogated quite a bit, but as it turns out, Mary would reappear to her and the people in town, 14 times, I believe it was. And they would drink from the water and heal their sickness and things like that. Bernadette ended up devoting her life to God and becoming a nun. Unfortunately, she died pretty young of tuberculosis at the age of 35. But ever since then, Lourdes has become kind of the site of healing um, for a lot of people. Lourdes has been credited with 72 healing miracles. Um, and, you know, even those that are not certified by the Catholic Church, there are so many personal miracles for people that travel there and bathe in the water and drink the water. So that's why Lourdes is important and really kind of has a special place for servicemen and women for sure.
Yes, and I told you before the show, I've been to Lourdes. It's a wonderful experience. One of the high points in my life. I was there with my mom and dad and my daughter. So my mom and dad flew to Germany, and my grandfather, great grandfather, and or my guess would be my daughter's great grandfather. But we did the tours. We walked and touched the grotto. I mean, so many people have touched the grotto, the cave. It's smooth. Uh, it used to be jagged, and it's like a smooth marbles um, finish now. And then you can light candles, and then they have a procession at night, and everybody has a candle night, and it's on like the feast days that for Our Lady of Lourdes and other millions of people show up at night and they chant, and they have this procession and they have a statue and they carry it and they sing the Ave Maria, and it's wonder. That's tears come to your eyes when you're there. That was a high point in my life, and I
And
I
and
regret not going. Yeah,
think about this. Sorry to interrupt, but
I know.
everything that you just said, our pilgrims get to do. Right? They get to be involved with the procession. They get to go to the grotto. We amass at the grotto on Saturday morning. They get to bathe in the water and drink the water, but they're doing it next to people that went through the same things as them, with 20,000 soldiers from around the world, including the US, Canada, Ireland, England, Germany, France, everywhere. There's 20 countries 40 countries represented, excuse me, 20,000 people. And so they get to experience all that with people that have gone through similar things to them. And the value behind that is enormous. And the spiritual healing that provides is just, it, it's indescribable.
I think it's great, and I'm glad to see the pictures of the veterans and the active duty folks. Some may not appreciate it till later. Like me, I didn't take the opportunity to do it with the military. I wish I would have, but I did it on my own because it would have been nice to have been with some friends and coworkers or fellow soldiers. I think that it would have been really nice. I actually didn't know much about Lourdes back then. I knew I wanted to go there, and I got my holy. It's gone now, but I had the holy water and the rosaries, and you lit a candle. It is a nice place, and I stayed in town. in the village there, and everyone there is just so accommodating to the pilgrims that come in and the visitors. It was Lourdes is, you're right, was untouched by the war. It's in the Alps, if I'm not mistaken. Is the Alps or the Pyrenees?
Pyrenees,
The
Pyrenees.
great, yeah, the Pyrenees, and it's really beautiful. It's like in the mountains, and it was untouched by the war, thank God. And yeah, it's a wonderful place. I really like it has to be on everybody's bucket list, especially if you're Catholic. You can hit Lourdes, you can hit Fatima. You get a twofer. They're almost by each other. But so we had the apparitions, and from what I understand, when the apparitions happened, the French government was upset because they weren't Catholic at the time, and they actually shut it down, right? And people continue to come and continue to come, which is a fascinating testament to the will of the French. You know, the eldest sister of the church. That they continue to go even though it was they boarded it up or they had guards there and
But yeah,
I
they
understand.
didn't want it to get out, and but God finds a way, and Mary finds a way to get
Yeah,
that
that's
out.
great.
Yeah.
So, so when soldiers like military sign up, I guess when they're how do they just sign up online or is there each of their how does that work?
Yeah, so we have an application process. It's pretty extensive, obviously, because there's a lot of things go into this, right? So we open the applications on September 15th. We close them on January 15th. They can complete their applications at warriorstolords.com when we open those applications up. We ask for a personal statement, a chaplain's endorsement, and a full medical annex. And the reason we do that is we kind of have to know what kind of things we're dealing with as we bring them kind of across the Atlantic. We get about this past year we had about 1,200, a little over 1,200 applications. That includes wounded, ill, and injured, active duty and retired, non-wounded, active duty and retired, volunteers, companions, designated caregivers, in the VA definition of a designated caregiver, chaplains, children, anyone in the immediate family is welcome to apply, and we do need an application for each of them. After that, we go through a selection process. It's one of the most difficult things I have to do, going from 1,200 applications to about 200 pilgrims that we select to come on the pilgrimage that year. And in a way, all 1,200 need it, right? And that's the hard part, and we have to kind of make tough decisions on that. So we get down to about 200, 250 pilgrims. This year's a little less because the PMI, the International Military Pilgrimage, falls on Pentecost weekend, which is a
Mm,
huge weekend in Lourdes.
right, right, right.
And so hotel rooms are at a premium. And you've been. It's a small town, right? It's not a bustling metropolis like Paris or Nice. It's a small town. This year, yeah, 1,200 applications. We brought around 200 pilgrims.
Yeah.
Anyone,
So
any veteran
I'm sorry.
able to apply.
Yeah, that's great, and I think that's a great opportunity. And you don't know about these programs till you hear about it or you read a newsletter, and and hopefully more people be educated like myself on this. I had no idea that that many soldiers from across the globe or Europe attend 20,000 or you said 28,000. I'm
20,000.
not too sure.
Yep.
That's remarkable. That fills a college football stadium, or basketball arena. That's amazing. All in uniform most of the time if they're able to, and I think the people there appreciate it because most, especially if you're doing the procession, and it's just wonderful to see all these countries come together, especially after World War II when the entire Europe was devastated, destroyed, completely leveled, almost places wiped off the face of the earth, and then they can come together and heal. Yeah, I think even at the time, German soldiers were allowed to. The Catholic ones were, so it brought that healing process for Europe, which is what Europe it been almost the first war and then the second war back to back, and now we have Lourdes, which was helping that healing process, which is great. So without, I guess, sharing anything private or anything, what did you see any transformations? Have you seen any goodness? Can you describe like when maybe I'll do this when a veteran gets there and when they leave? What's the transformation like?
I think a pilgrimage is an arduous journey. Whether you're walking the Camino or coming to Lourdes or going to Fatima, whatever you may be doing. Um, I'm lucky enough to welcome each and every pilgrim when they arrive in Lourdes, and you can see in their eyes um, there's despair, right? There's sadness. There's something heavy on their hearts, and you can see it in their eyes. You really can. And then I get on the bus when they're leaving, and there's a light back in their eyes, right? There's hope, and we're not able to heal everyone. We pray for miracles, but we don't expect them. But what the Warriors to Lord's Pilgrimage allows our servicemen and women to do is start their healing journey in such a wonderful place that they're confident enough when they go home to continue that healing journey. Because a lot of times, we have most of what we see now is severe PTSD and moral injury, right? So, and trying to deal with that is tough, and a lot of servicemen and women want to heal from it, but don't know how, don't know where to start. I'll give you an example. We had a young Marine come with his wife. Their marriage was falling apart, and he just didn't know what to do anymore because he wanted to get better, but he didn't know how. And they applied for Warriors to Lords as kind of a last ditch Hail Mary, no pun intended, to heal their marriage. Um, they got there on Wednesday, and I'm not gonna lie, it was rough to get him out, right? To be like, hey, you need to come to these things because we can start this process of healing. On Sunday morning, they came to us and said they wanted to renew their wedding vows, and she and his wife did that, right? His wife is the one that saw the change in him, and it was a lot of, you know, there's mass and there's processions and there's healing, but there's also time to be with people who are going through the same thing you went through. So we talked to older Marines, right, who maybe went through the same thing and struggled in their marriage, and they kind of set him on this path of healing to get better. Um, and so they renewed their wedding vows. He's on our staff now because he wanted to give so much time to this program that he's on our staff as one of our moral injury experts. He went to school for it. He's going to school for it. He's doing all these things because he took that step, um, years ago to come on this pilgrimage. And that's the thing, right? Is so that light in their eyes when they leave is confidence. We had a young woman last year who was in a wheelchair. She had gotten in a training accident. She hadn't walked in 3 years, and she was in a wheelchair the entire time in Lords. And that's no problem. We have volunteers to push people around and things like that. And I got a text from her trip leader the day she got home that she got out of a wheelchair and hasn't been back in it since. And it's just
Oh,
confidence, right? She got
yeah.
confidence from other people in wheelchairs and from people that were in wheelchairs suffering from similar things she suffered from, and that were walking around because they just had that confidence to do so. So they're not going to be certified miracles, right? We're not going to go to the Vatican and do things like that. But they're personal miracles for these servicemen and women, and that's you can't put a price tag on that. And having the ability with the Knights of Columbus and the Archdiocese for the military service to provide that to people who really need it is a blessing.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I'm sure there's many, many more stories of of healing like that. My when you're there, I guess we can describe, because I've been there. I didn't do any of the baths or anything, but can you describe? So someone's like, you take a bath, but it's not like you go in there and you're taking a bath in your house or a hotel. It's like these designated, I guess, areas, private. It's not a like a pool when you go into a public pool, and they have these rooms, and they have people that help you, I guess, get in. Can you describe that, real, if you don't mind?
Yeah, I mean, so my first time to Lourdes was right after COVID, and the full immersion baths were shut down at that point. So at that those first few years, they did a gesture, which was nice because they can go with their families. And in the past, it's men and women separate because you do strip down and get in the baths and everything like that. This coming year is the first year the baths are going to be completely reopened. So it's not it's a scary thing to do, right? Obviously, there's a spiritual aspect of it, but it is, you kind of have to um, kind of pump yourself up to do it. And the water is ice cold. I will say that ice cold.
Comes off the mountain, so
Comes
yeah,
off the
yeah,
mountain, yeah, of course.
yeah, or the
Um,
ground, yeah, yeah.
yeah, and so it's ice cold, and yeah, you there's volunteers in the baths that have to volunteer for at least 2 weeks a year, so they know what they're doing. Um, so you go into the room, you strip down, and you get in. They're large tubs that you get into, um, and you are up by yourself, and you go in, you float there for a second, they pray over you, and then you get out. And the interesting thing, and again, I haven't done the full immersion. I will this year for the first time. The interesting thing that people say is that when you get out, you're wet but you're dry. It's a dry water, and you can kind of feel that in it being kind of holy. Um, and then they wrap you in cold towels, and you go and warm up. So
Nice,
that's it.
excellent.
It's when you rope that into the entire pilgrimage as a whole. Um, there's a lot of steps on the journey that we take our servicemen and women on, whether it be a presentation on moral injury, which is kind of our cornerstone. And then you go right to the baths from there. And then all the PMI events are happening. It really takes you step by step on that healing.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. So, a typical day. So, how long are they there?
So
The
they
pilgrims.
arrive, they fly overnight Tuesday, obviously going to Europe. They're red eye flights. They arrive to Lourdes on Wednesday, tired. We make sure to not talk to them too much. Wednesday night, they get in their hotel rooms um, and get some rest. Thursday morning, we do moral injury in the baths. Thursday afternoon, we have kind of our opening mass. It's a healing mass where they do laying of the hands and things like that. Friday is really when the PMI begins, where the International Military Pilgrimage begins. Uh, there's there's a ceremony on the Esplanade where the Archbishop of the military in France welcomes the troops, and then we have our U.S. delegation opening mass Friday afternoon. The opening ceremony, which is held in the underground basilica, and you said it earlier, yeah, that it's like a college arena. The
Hmm.
underground basilica is a vast cavernous basilica chapel where all 20,000 troops can fit and have an opening ceremony. And I describe it as a prayer service and the opening ceremony of the Olympics. It's
Awesome.
each country processes in with their colors, a band if they have it, military band, and everyone's waving their flags and chanting, and it's truly it's an out of body experience. And then Saturday, mass at the grotto and Stations of the Cross, and then Saturday evening is kind of the big Marian
Procession.
procession,
Oh,
like
that's
you were
wonderful.
talking about. And then Sunday
Yeah.
is the closing mass in that same underground basilica, and then everyone heads home on Monday. So it,
Okay.
it's intense. It's an
It's
intense
intense for
five
sure.
days. There is
It's
downtime in there, right? And then we have faith and fellowship most evenings where a chaplain gives a reflection, and then they break into small groups and chat, and that's where a lot of things come out, right, where they can kind of feel open to to having discussions of what they've gone through in their life.
Yeah, that's great. I've been on pilgrimage, not pilgrim. I've been on retreats, and I know that feeling when you get there, you're a little bit apprehensive, but the time you leave, you're counting the seconds, like not you don't want the to end. And I'm assuming that you're in Europe, especially if you come from the United States and you've never been to Europe, and you're in the the Pyrenees, and you're like, this is heaven on earth because it's so beautiful. It's cool, like weather wise, and the people are so nice. And because you hear, yeah, Americans have all these, oh, French are mean and rude, but then you go there and you're like, I when I went to Normandy and I went to Lourdes, I was treated so good, especially they're like, oh, you're an American, and they were so hospitable. So it changed my whole reflection on how French and Europeans are. My all my stereotypes went out the door, because I was like, no, these folks are accommodating, and they were super nice. And you would figure a town where thousands, hundreds of thousands of people rotate in and out, that people would get tired of it, but they're not. They're always welcome in there. It's not a tourist town. It's a holy town. It's really nice.
And it's intrinsically Catholic, right?
Yes,
I mean, think about where we are in our world right now, especially here in the States, where maybe our Catholic faith isn't up, in our town isn't front and center. Anywhere you go in Lourdes, you can buy a statue of Mary, you can buy a rosary everywhere. It's intrinsically Catholic, and that liberation has to feel good as well.
right, sure. So I speaking of that, so why is a Marian devotion? Why is it significant to warriors? Why should they reflect on that? Um,
Well, I think Marian devotion is it's good for servicemen and women. It's good for any Catholic, right? I mean, she's the mother of God. Has that love? She gives that loving feeling to people, right? Where we can really get a sense of love from her. And for servicemen and women specifically, sometimes that's so needed, right? That motherly touch in that Catholic sense when our servicemen and women may have done things they don't agree with, or that they don't think God agrees with. I don't want to get into a theological discussion about the just war
right,
theory and all
right,
that
right.
stuff, but
I'm with you.
and
I'm
that
with you.
and a lot of that is where moral injury comes from, right? Is they can't put together their actions in war with their faith. And I think that Marian devotion allows them to feel loved no matter what. And Mary loves them no matter what. And then you get into the specifics of Lourdes, where she said to Bernadette, dig in these waters and you will be healed, and the world will be healed. That's exactly what servicemen and women should be looking for. So that's kind of where it comes from. And Mary, the statue is of Our Lady of Lourdes is beautiful. And you stand in front of the statue, and they have a saying there. The last thing you're supposed to do when you're leaving the sanctuary of Lourdes is go to the statue in the middle of the esplanade and
Right,
say, you leave a flower, and that means you'll see her again. And you
nice,
can feel her gaze, right? And it's a
right.
statue. It's but you can feel the love in her gaze when you do that. And I'm lucky enough that I did that the first time, and now this is going to be my seventh year of seeing her again.
Wow. So you've been to Lord 7 times, and I'm
Yep,
sure you learn something new every time.
every time.
And you get it's just a feeling. I think when you go there, it's magnetic. I don't know what the feel. It's a holy place. It's holy ground. I mean, um, and and if you are not maybe strong in your Catholic faith, and you're just no, you haven't been, you know, faithful or whatever, but and you're going to go on this trip, but when you leave there, you see the dedication of some of the folks there. Um, it's amazing to see I guess the piety, and how dedicated folks are to um just the whole Marian cause there. When I was there, I noticed one thing. I was like, the town is so small, and you go around in the morning and you do things, and there's almost no one there. Especially if you get up early, you can almost have the place to yourself if you get up early. Europeans like to stay up late, and Americans like to get up early. That was my when I at least when I was in Italy. But then you turn around or you go to mass, you come out, and in that place, I was like, where did all these people come from? I mean, how do they get here? I mean, it's amazing that how many people can fit in the grotto and the big plaza area. You have a name for it, but it's amazing that how many people you're like, how many people, and then they all have candles, and then they're all singing. And I don't even know how they organize the way they walk, because people do process, and it's amazing how they organize that whole operation there.
It's a well-oiled machine. That's for sure.
It is.
That's for sure.
Yeah, and so if a warrior is interested in going to that, and he's just on the fence, I mean, obviously they apply, but what would your be your recommendation for someone to apply if they're a warrior out there, or maybe you're a spouse and you say, hey, this might be good for my husband, like you mentioned. Sometimes the wife sometimes is the one that'll push the husband to say, hey, this is our last chance. What would be your advice, and how would they, I guess they can apply?
Yeah. So if there's any inkling in your mind that this might be for you, I highly recommend applying. All right, because um, we may see something in your application of, oh, this person really needs it, or your wife, or your spouse, your companion, because a lot of times the servicemen and women aren't the best at talking about themselves, but the spouse, the companion, the friend, the child, in their personal statement might really give us a good sense of what's needed in this situation. So I highly recommend applying. You never know what you're going to get out of it. If you've fallen away from the church, if you're thinking about converting, even if you're not Catholic, we do bring non-Catholics with us. We have a ton of conversion stories, and people. I've got people that want to come back this year to get baptized in Lourdes, right? So there's if there's any inkling in your mind that this is for you, and you might not know what it's for, but we can provide you that personal journey that it might take to send you on your healing journey.
Awesome. And how if folks can't go or don't want to attend, how would they support this program?
So we take donations. You can donate through warriorstolourdes.com. We're completely funded by Knights of Columbus Charities. Uh, so any little bit helps. It costs about $3,000 to send a serviceman or woman to Lourdes, and with costs changing every day, that those prices will go up. So get together with a group, your Knights of Columbus Council, if you're in one, sponsor a pilgrim and try to get the $3,000 level. But any little bit helps. We do cover all servicemen and women and one companion. They do have the opportunity to bring more if they want to pay for more. Gold Star families, that's a big one. We bring a lot of Gold Star families to Lourdes for their healing. We cover them. So, or you can volunteer and pay your own way to come and come help us out, push wheelchairs. It is hilly. It's a hilly town. We need a lot of help with getting people up the hills and on the cobblestone and things like that. So there's a number of ways, and just talk about the program, right? Like you said, a lot of people don't know about us. I am working on kind of a PR stint to change that, but just getting the word out. If you're near a military base or military chapel, talk about us. Let people know we're here, and that we're ready to bring you on a pilgrimage to help you in any way we can.
Appreciate it, Kevin. It does mean a lot, and I've been to Lourdes. It is one of those high points in my life. I would like to take my wife. I was just like I said with my parents, but I think I would like to take my younger kids to just to see that and their devotion to Mary, and just see the folks and be a part of that procession. And I just think that would be an awesome experience.
Yeah. Yep. And you should apply. Yeah,
Thanks.
you should
Yeah,
apply.
I should
Yeah,
apply.
yeah.
My wife more than me. She she has some stuff that she got when in the military and hasn't been able to heal. go away, no matter how many doctors, Mayo
Hmm.
Clinic, all this other stuff. I was like, maybe we could take you to Lourdes.
Well, and that's the thing too. Like
So,
a lot of
yeah,
times,
yeah.
a non-wounded serviceman, man or woman, um, comes to us, and their wife is or husband is, diagnosed with cancer and things like that, and we take everything into consideration, right? It doesn't need to be a wound of war specifically. It could be a family wound or something like that too. We take all that into consideration when you.
Well, again, thank you for your time, and I appreciate you highlighting this wonderful opportunity for service members and veterans. And hopefully, I know it'll go well. And it's a busy weekend, but and I'm sure there'll be a lot of healing. And I pray for all the folks that are going to be there and their family members because I know it'll be a high point of their life.
I
Thanks for you and the Knights of Columbus for doing this program.
I appreciate it. I thank you for having me on. warriorstolords.com. Applications for next year will open on September 15th. Keep an eye out.
Awesome. September 15th, keep that day out and apply. The more information, the better. Get a chaplain to sponsor you. And the more information, like I said, the better. And helps you make that decision when you're going from how many thousands apply?
We had about 1,200 this year, but it grows
1,200.
every year.
And then you select how many? I know you mentioned that.
Around 200.
Wow. So okay.
Yeah.
So that's a significant. Yeah, I know it's hard to make that cut. Thank you again for what you do, and thanks for the Knights of Columbus. And I'll make sure I share this with you, and we'll hopefully get the word out.
Excellent. Thank you for having me.
Thanks a lot. Yes, sir.
Bye-bye.
All right.